Good afternoon. We are here today for our second Facilities and Finance Subcommittee meeting, September 3rd, 2024. We'll go ahead and call to order the subcommittee at 4:03 p.m. Reviewing of the agenda for this afternoon, we do have two ticket items. One is the 2024-25 unaudited actuals adopted budget for AADUSD. And then we'll move into our currently active facility use agreements for the 23-24 school year, as well as the current ones for 24-25. And we'll have speakers, presenters from staff for the adopted budget. It will be Mr. Kai Nguyen, our Assistant Superintendent for Business Services, and then for Facility Use Agreements, Mr. Mora, our Interim Director of Maintenance Operations and Transportation. And then we'll move into future meeting agenda items and next meeting date as we meet monthly. And then we will adjourn. Our meetings are an hour, as indicated in our notice of agenda. And at this point in time, we'll go ahead, since it is a public meeting, and these are posted 72 hours in advance, we'll go ahead and pause to see if there's any public comment from anyone on Zoom. If you do have a public comment, please raise your hand, and then we'll go ahead and admit you in terms of accessing your microphone. And then, as we do for the other meetings, we're going to go ahead and record this meeting just for minutes and notes. So at this time, do we have any public comments? These are anyone? One hands. Nobody. All right. Just to make sure that the folks who are watching on Zoom, can somebody maybe give? Do we have the chat feature? They can chat us. If somebody could just send us a chat message, if you could hear us fine, please. We'll go ahead and pause.
I think there were only two in there. One was an AI for recording. And the other was...
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. I introduced myself, Eric Saki, Superintendent for our school district, and then we'll just go around the room quickly and announce who is here.
Next Mora, Director of Maintenance and Operations Transportation.
Lester Mascon, Board Vice President. William Mays, Board Member.
Kai Nguyen, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
Melina McCauley, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent.
Michelle Van Ornum, High Desert Principal.
Thank you for joining. All right, thank you for the introductions. No public comment. If there is a public comment, please do raise your hand. We'll go ahead and honor the time, and we'll just move forward with the agenda items. I'll turn it over to our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sarakian. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm going to present to you our unaudited actual for 23-24. I'm going to hand this PowerPoint handout out, and
we'll project it on the screen as well.
Good touch? No. No. I think so. Why do we do? Why do we present the unaudited actual? Why do we complete the unaudited actual at the end of the school year or the fiscal year every single year? It's because the unaudited actual tells us how much revenue the district actually received and how much the district actually spent for the whole entire year. This report is the most important report I feel of all reports that I submit to the governing board. All right. So these are the financial components of the unaudited actual. When we built the budget, the governor proposed the cost of living adjustment at 8.13%. but it went up to 8.22%, which is a 0.09% increase, which was nice. We had a pretty decent cost of living adjustment for 23-24. However, for 24-25, it's a different story. It's really close at 1.07, so it's not much for this year, 24-25. But the building blocks is the lottery unrestricted, it's about $170. Restricted lottery is 67, we get mandated block grant. Our average attendance is at 92%, or was at 92% in 23-24.
Kai, you mind if we dynamically ask questions? while
Sure,
going
please,
through?
yeah,
Okay,
feel free to ask if you have any questions.
What is your expectation on a normal cost of our cost increase year over year, irrespective of the COLA? So like, what would if you're budgeting for a cost increase from 23-24 to 24-25, assuming there were no increases in salaries or anything like that, like what do you normally budget?
That's a very good question. So what we normally would budget for is with the step and column, which is staff salaries, everyone.
Okay.
The majority of the employees will get a step and column, like they move from step 2 to step 3, and some from step 4 to step 5. And then there's others that already maxed out. They can't go any further.
But beyond that, you have,
And then you got your health and welfare benefits as well.
which is normal, what would you normally budget as a percentage?
So our expenditures, most of our budget are personnel, which is certificate salaries, classified salary, and statutory benefits, which is your health and welfare benefits, your PERS and STRS rates.
Just blend it all together, like,
Yes, it's all in there.
but
Yes.
blend it all together. What is your assumption from this year to next
Mhm.
year? On average, like, no matter what district you're in, no matter where you're at,
Right.
if I had to do a cost assumption from year one to from this year to the next,
Mhm.
like, what am I gonna flatly budget as a top line number as an increase for my cost structure,
About conservatively 3% increase.
minimum?
Minimum.
Yeah.
But that's a very good question. Thank you. I'll just get the face one. Okay, so this is our enrollment and our average attendance. The blue line is our enrollment, and then the green line is our average attendance. We get funding based on when students are in the classroom, learning and getting educated by our teachers and staff. So we're projecting that enrollment is projected to decline at adopted budget, but the good thing is, as of today, our enrollment is at 1,045. So I'm gonna change all of this from 24 and 25 all the way up to 26, 27, our enrollment, because we gained about 40 students, which is a plus for the district. All right. So this is our actual revenue that we received last year. We received a little bit more of our local control funding
46
formula.
today.
Yes, and we received a little bit less revenues for federal funding. And that's because a lot of our one-time funds are gone. I'm gonna explain that a little bit more on the next slide. Our state revenues came in a little bit more as well, which is really the STRS on behalf. All right, as well as the art and music program. We've got a little bit more funding there. And then you see the big one here, the local revenue, which is because of our charter schools. We received oversight fees for the charter schools as well. So that's a plus for the district. So we garnered about $1.4 million in additional funding. All right, so these are the one-time funds that we have received the last few years. However, all of this is gone now. So we're gonna lose about $2 million worth of one-time funds. We got the ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3. During the COVID years, we received all those funds, but they're gone, unfortunately. And but that's information purpose there. So the bulk of our revenue is our local control funding formula. And then we get Other local revenues, 23%, other state revenue, 10, and then our federal, 7%. Federal revenues, look for like Title I, Title II, Title III, special education funds, resources, 6,500. We get funding from self-help based on the number of special education students we have at our school. But we'll go to the next one here, but that's a pie chart there. Here's our expenditure, all right? We spent a little bit less for certificate, we spent a little bit more for classified. The STRS on behalf kind of offset the revenue that we receive for state, of the state revenues. Right there, so it's kind of like a placeholder, basically. And then books and supplies, we spent a little bit less. Service and operating system, professional services, basically spent a little bit less. So we spent a little bit less, about $107,000, which is nice, right? But we did do a transfer though, and I'll explain that a little bit more. So if you look at this pie chart here, the bulk of our revenue, bulk of our expenditure of personnel, like I mentioned to you earlier, which is our certificate salary, classified salary, and our statutory benefits, employee benefits. That's about 74% of our expenditure are personnel. So for every dollar we bring in, 74 cents goes to personnel. Right?
As a percentage of revenue, that employee benefits number, so that just continues to grow as long as people are continuing to retire.
Yes.
So at what point does it ever stay, what is it? Is there a standard percentage of revenue that it sticks around? Like, obviously people buy, people go into it, so there's just a little bit of recycling that happens there. It's hard to be realities on things. So what's a good number there? Where will that stabilize at? Is it gonna be up to 30% or 40% or?
Our expenditures for statutory benefits, health and welfare benefits will continue to increase because the STRS and first rate, we have to contribute. These are employer contribution. We contribute for our employees. So 27 cents for every dollar goes to CalPERS, and at 19 cents goes to CalSTRS. And our health and welfare, if you look at our health and welfare, is if you compare to other districts, we are very low on the podium in terms of employer contribution to the health and welfare. For classified, we contribute to our health and welfare 12,500 for classified. Certificate is 9,500 for certificated. Did that answer your question?
Not quite.
Okay.
I was just trying to, like, what is as a percentage of revenue, where are you looking to, like, where do you expect that percentage to stick around? Is there a standard number that'll stay at?
Well, our revenues will continue. It all based on our cost of living adjustment, wherever the governor proposes.
Well, obviously, where our revenues increase,
Mhm.
these costs will increase as well,
Yeah.
they should. But as a percentage of cost or
Mhm.
percentage of revenue, do they have any sort of, do they follow a trend line? What's standard from district to district? Like, assuming that you didn't, we pulled you out of thin air and we dropped you here. And I said, hey, here, our employee benefits is 20% of our cost structure. You say, that sounds about right. That's what we expect. That's low, that's high, that's
Oh,
gonna stay there.
yeah.
Like, what's the,
We are in the medium range. If other districts, their personnel expenditures are like 80 to 85% of their budget. So some of those districts, if they don't have high duplicate people percentage, and if they don't get a lot of federal funding, state funding, then they're hurting. Like a good example would be Pasadena Unified School District, where declining enrollment,
yeah,
as well as they have they give us cost of living adjustment salary increase, as well as your utility people percentage is not as high.
Mhm.
That all factor in and that have an impact negatively.
the charts that you have in here, would it be possible to see, like a 3 to 5 year just trend line on each
Yes.
of those?
Very good question.
Okay.
I have a multi-year projection
Okay.
in there as well.
So I wanna go back to, right,
Yes.
like forward and backwards, like see it.
Oh, yeah,
moment in time and then see it forwards and back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I understand what you're asking. I can do that. We'll elaborate a little more on the other slides.
Yep.
Yeah. So we do a contribution, we do a transfer to routine restricted maintenance, special education, and to Fund 40. The Fund 40 is for capital outlay. We didn't have any funding in there, so there was some expenditure in Fund 40. So I had to do a transfer to Fund 40 from the general fund. But we are required to contribute, we gotta meet our maintenance of efforts for special education, where we have to contribute just as much, if not more, every single year. Right, so that's our maintenance of efforts, and then our routine restricted maintenance as well.
And Kai, just for everyone to have a better understanding, in terms of special education program, I know the word is not encroachment any longer, but in terms of district contribution, is that a typical practice?
It's a very typical practice. I mean, it all depends on the number of special education students we have, especially our special day class students or SDC students. And some of our SDC students require non-public school services, NPS. And that's where if they go to another facility to get services that we don't offer, then we have to pay that third-party organization. And so this is our fund balance here. Our beginning balance, like I mentioned to you last week, we had a beginning balance of $13.6 million. The good thing is our unrestricted is at 10.6 million, our restricted is 3 million. Our revenue came in at 22.17 million. Of that, 17.5 is unrestricted, 4.6 is restricted. Expenditures came in at, let's just say 22 million. Of that, 15 million is unrestricted, 6.8 million restricted. To summarize everything here, we were able to garner, even though we're deficit spending under the unrestricted, we are able to garner $222,000 when we close the books.
Can you
Yes.
explain that next slide? I have a negative 2 million and a positive 2 million with a 40,000
Yeah,
combined.
so, yeah,
Is
so that's the contribution that we did from unrestricted to restricted, that's focused on special education and routine restricted maintenance.
Okay.
And 40,000 of that was to Fund 40, which was a transfer.
Got it. Does that happen every year?
We have to do it, we have to do a contribution to special education and routine restricted maintenance.
Listing it under contribution transfers and adjustments makes it seem like it was a one-time event, but it's something that happens repeatedly.
It happens
Okay.
repeatedly,
Understood.
yeah. So in essence, our unrestricted funds went down a little bit, it's at $10.4 million. Our restricted funds is at 3.3, but again, we're able to garner a small surplus of about 222,000. Our fund balance increased marginally. We're at now $13.7 million. Okay, and so this is your multi-year projection. So, Mr. Mascon, you want like per years of our beginning balance and then how much revenue we receive. So I can.
3 years
I can
forward,
do
3
that.
years back
Sure.
from today would be good, and then broken down across those other categories would be interesting to see.
See,
I mean, we're really talking about, I mean, you get like a P&L on a balance sheet, 3 years forward, 3 years back would be grouped instead of in the individual cost centers.
yeah, definitely. I'll break that down for you. I'll get
Thank you.
those out. So we're projecting, this is from adopted budget as well. We were projected to deficit spend 246,000, but again, I'm gonna update this based on the our enrollment increase and not decrease. Our average day attendance was projected at 90%, but I'm gonna try to bump that up to maybe 92% because that's where we closed at 92%. Average day attendance. But So we're projecting to deficit spend for the next 3 years. But this all may change because unfortunately, the COLA here this year is only 1.07. Next year is 3%. The next 2 years, the next 2 outer years is really 3%. But that may change because we won't know until January what the governor is going to propose for the state budget, state of California's budget. But we're marginally going to deficit spend. And this is for a small school district, we're required to reserve economic of uncertainty of 4%, but I did it for 6%. Right? But this is what what your projection looks like. And hopefully,
That deficit spend that is assuming you're able to put $1.2 million into an additional, or is that?
this is what was projected.
Okay.
Things will change from year to year. And again, I'm gonna update, at first interim in December, our first interim ends October 31st. I'll present to the governing board on or before December 15th, what our first interim looks like. It's just an update of the adopted budget, basically.
Understood.
Yes,
That was based on less amount of students too, right?
that's based on less amount of students
Lower 88.
and lower 80,
Yeah.
yeah. Right. And I will have 22, 23, 22, 20. Yeah. And. So this is the reporting cycle. And we're at, the online actual. And again, what I'm presenting today is pretty much gonna mirror what I'm presenting next Thursday,
Understood.
to the governing board of our unaudited actual, with the exception of adding the, prior years into this slide. All right, and, one thing I forgot to add is, the other funds that we have, but it's not much, so I'll add that in there. But, and then I'll present the first round in December. Then we'll go to the governor's proposed budget, what it's gonna be like, for 25, 26. But this is just proposed. We won't know more until the May revision. And then based on what the governor proposed, I'll present the second round based on that. And I'll build the budget based on the May revision. All right. Does anyone have any questions? I'm more than happy to
I
answer.
think the only thing you may want to start considering budgeting for, or at least having your eye on, is that big construction project going across the street there.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, they're building.
Housing.
The
Oh,
development.
nice. Oh,
The
adding
development.
more.
Yeah. Getting more
Yes.
funding.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah,
How many houses?
Let's keep changing. It
Like
was,
100,
it was 300, I think they brought it down to 100.
Yeah.
I've heard 100, yeah.
no, that would definitely grow the district, that would definitely help the district out.
What's our current per square footage? For the impact,
Billy, you and that.
$12.
Was
Is that our
that
current impact fee is for?
Yeah, the developer fee.
developer fee?
I have that in my office, but I can present, we are taking the developer fee study to the next board meeting,
Yeah.
so that way we can have an updated
Mm-hmm.
cost.
Paid it for, so I should remember.
It's somewhere around 12.
Yeah. What's that?
I think they're around 12.
Yeah, somewhere.
Oh, the next slide. So, things to monitor, even though we have a positive certification and we have the mental health grant, thank you, Dr. Sahakian, for getting all those grants. And, we still have the learning recovery emergency block grant and the arts grant. However, there's a lot of issues underneath that we don't see that we need to address, especially transportation. Our buses are breaking down. We have to look at replacing some of those buses. We can apply for grants with the San Joaquin Air Quality Management Division for electrical or different type of air gas buses. That is
Natural gas.
natural gas, thank you. But that's not, I don't know if that's that's enough time to help transportation out because the bus are keep on breaking
What
down.
about some immediate stuff like, obviously you have an active maintenance cost right now, so if you look at your maintenance cost and you look at the cost of leasing a new vehicle, improve fuel economy, like what is the wash on that? Cause that might be very close to,
So if we purchase a Bluebird,
can we lease? Do we have to
Lease,
purchase? Can
oh,
we lease, right?
gosh, that's the,
Maybe lease with dollar buyout, but
Yeah.
if you structure it like a lease, so it's more of a,
yeah,
and you look at your maintenance, carrying maintenance costs right now, right?
Right,
Whether
right,
that's a annual or monthly cost,
yeah,
and your
Compared
lease
to a
may
lease.
be very similar in cost,
Yeah.
so might be.
yeah.
If I'm thinking too far outside the box for a school district, let me know, but.
No, you've got some good points. Lease to own, I think that could be an option, but, one of those buses can cost. Oh,
What's the depreciation timeline, like 10, 15 years?
8 to 12 years.
What do you hear buses now?
We have buses out there
Beyond.
that are,
I was gonna say, those are way beyond that.
So I mean, you could have, we have multiple things, right? So you'll have your reduction in maintenance costs, you'll have whatever residual value is left in it, plus you've got, I mean, if you can depreciate it over 12 years, you'll usually have a matching lease structure, or loan structure with it, so
Yeah.
it could. You look at it as it could net
Mhm.
if you,
Yeah, yeah, we can definitely look into that. I mean,
if you think it's worthwhile, I
Yeah.
know. you're in
Well,
business, but-
I know that if we go to get a certificate of participation, which is a COP, right? It's a burden on the school district because we basically will pay about 80% more of the loan that we get. And then we have to pay out general fund. So it, based on what I've seen in the past, then it's gonna cost the district, the general fund.
We don't have to solve it right this second,
Yeah.
but
But we can definitely look into that, but lease to own may be a good possibility. But just leasing and getting a loan from a COP, it could be a burden on the district. Yeah. do that. But those are some of the stuff that, we wanna take a look at. Mm.
That's an old bus.
But if anyone has any question, I'm more than happy to answer.
How many buses are we having issues with right now?
I think there's
all the big buses. The only ones that we don't have any issues with are the small ones that we use for dispense.
Yeah.
Those are the newest buses that we have.
And when we get buses like that, we want to put, cameras on the bus as well.
Right.
To make sure whatever happens.
Yeah.
We can see it. But that's where we're at. I mean, a lot of unforeseen issues for maintenance and operations, transportation. We want to look at putting shade structures, playground structures for our school sites. And carpet replacements, just ongoing maintenance.
I think, our next meeting, we're supposed to look at all of those costs. And see what's budgeted and all that. Talk about that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was always very well prepared.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Kai.
Oh, thank you.
All right, we could pause right now. Again, I just want to mention, it is a public meeting, public comment. We started off with public comments. If anybody has a public comment here in person or online folks, if you want to just raise your hand or put a message in the chat, and then we'll go ahead and honor that and pause for public comment. Okay. Moving forward, I'll turn it over to Mr. Mora, Interim Director of MOT. Facility use agreements, the parameters, the active use agreements from 23-24 school year, those that are active now, some of those parameters in terms of when it comes to liability, fees, and who's typically, utilizing our facilities
Okay.
from external agencies. Thank you.
So basically, we have, Caesar, can you move to the first one? No, I don't have my glasses on. So this is Desert Wind Soccer League. They utilize the site every year for soccer. We have two applications, one from 2024 and one from 2023. They normally give us the use of facilities request forms along with the proof of liability insurance documents. And then once it's completed, we hand it over to pay accounts payable if there's any fees that need to be paid.
So that one-page document is,
This is for in-house. This is what we give to our
Okay,
secretary.
got
Our
it.
secretary puts it in the
Okay.
main facilities calendar. This is the one from Crush Basketball from 2024. And it's the same procedure. They send it into the district office. I signed it off. I give it to Maria to put it inside the calendar for facilities. And then from there, we get the liability documents that we need from them, the insurance documents. At the end of their season, if you want to call it season, or after they're finished with the facilities, then we charge them the fees.
these are not evergreen agreements, so these are 1 year at a time.
Mhm.
A year at a
Yes.
time, yes, that is correct. But it doesn't mean that it's on stone. If there's an event that pops up during the actual time frame, our students will override that.
And then Ernesto, if you could elaborate a little bit more about,
Mhm.
let's say, the calendaring of activities and outside agencies, requests coming in, what that process looks like, who takes a look at that? Where does that responsibility
Dr.
fall?
Sahaki, I'd like to see the contractual documentation that we have with these agencies
Mhm.
beyond this one-page agreement.
Okay,
Is there a ruling document that exists that
Yes.
governs our relationship with them?
Yes, there
Yes.
is.
Okay,
Yes,
how
we have-
often,
It's the whole package, not just that covered. There's a whole package that they have to sign that indicates the insurance that they have, and we're not responsible if anything happens during that time frame.
is
They're
it,
renting the facilities.
but does it have operational parameters like about their use of the facility, times when they can use it, that sort of thing?
What parts of facilities are being-
We gotta take a look at it. It does have we have to go through documents. There's quite a bit, like that much.
Yeah, I mean, like, we can take
There's policies in there.
there's probably policies and legal stuff that, somebody other than us can review, obviously,
Mhm.
because and do we know the last time that was reviewed by an attorney? Or when was the last time it was
It
created?
is on the actual facility. I don't have it here in front of me, but it is on the bottom.
the revised date?
Yeah, it was revised already. It was
10,
revised
5 years ago, 10
probably
years
6
ago?
years ago.
6 years.
5,
That's
6 years
probably
ago.
well overdue for review. Yeah, but if we could see
Template
the
itself?
actual documentation itself for what the
Yeah.
actual.
We'll see it.
And we should expect, right? We should see, there should be insurance,
Mm-hmm.
and that should be dictated by us to them, what sort of insurance they need to carry.
Yes.
That
Mhm.
should come from our insurance company, should be telling us what we should have.
Mhm.
So you guys know your business, but this is what I would expect, probably what Bill would expect too, if he was hiring a subcontractor.
Yeah, I'll definitely check in Keenan to see what their recommendations are.
Updated parameters to include all the things that have happened in the world since 6 years ago, right?
There's
Most
been a
things
lot
have
of-
COVID restrictions and
course.
stuff like that now. That
The
sort of thing.
language fluctuates. In terms of our board liaisons for the subcommittee, would you like us to bring back that template for the next meeting in October?
Yeah, I mean, we can, I think I'd like to see it before then, if
Okay.
we can, but we can also review it in that meeting as
Sure.
well.
We can get it for the next board meeting.
Additionally, there should be an operational section, right? So it should be specific to the campus,
Mhm.
like what the rules are of the campus, right? no walking on the hill up the middle or up to the top. Right?
Don't trip
Everybody
over the
does,
rail.
anyway, yeah, chip over the bone, like, don't play on the play equipment,
Yeah,
those sort of things, like,
there's rules in there.
yeah.
No.
But that, we would just make sure that's, it's needs to be
Mhm.
updated with what the
No
actual,
animals.
no animals. Don't
So-
let your Harley into the field.
So Kai, Ernesto, we'll review it and then send the template to our board liaisons before September 12th.
Yes.
And then formally we could bring it back for the October meeting here.
Sounds good.
Those sort of contracts need to be reviewed by an attorney at some point,
Yes,
probably
they always are, yeah.
sooner than 6 years.
Mhm.
That's all I have for facilities. There's 4 pages on there, 2 for this year and 2 for last year.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there any questions?
No, I think the actual contract documentation will probably tell us a little more about the actual parameters of it.
Ernesto, we had a question over
Mhm.
here. What about the Catholic church that uses the NPR at High Desert?
Well, that's, he wanted to see the actual athletic,
Oh, okay.
Sort of.
not for the church.
Right.
That
I think we were thinking of
Oh,
all
yeah.
facilities. using
Okay, we have one more. That's St. Mary's that uses it on Sundays.
Okay.
Yeah,
And they
I have
use-
that as well.
High Desert NPR.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we have it we have the documents for them as well.
I would assume the operational description, something you assisted in crafting. What the parameters were.
No, there's,
It predated me.
Okay.
yep, no, there's a lot. You can see
They
this is
used
all
it for
that
a
we
long
have.
time.
We'll review.
Is that one evergreen or does that have to be renewed every year?
No, every year.
them.
Okay.
No, it's every year. And if they have a special function, we have to basically get another document from them indicating that they need to use it for Wednesday or Thursday, whatever it falls into.
If we're gonna have that part done every year, I think the operational updates should probably be, I would suggest that the operational updates are something that we also.
Mhm.
Get the site to actually review as well.
Yeah.
Maybe things going on that they don't.
No, we always double check. We have a lot of calendars in there, so we always double check with the sites. And I also get Maria to double check with the secretaries just to be safe. There's no overlapping.
Yeah.
I think he's talking more operational, like she's adding new equipment or whatever, so you wanna make sure that that's
Covered.
covered in the
Mhm.
next section.
Mhm.
Something like
That
that.
the new equipment will be taken care of or how it's gonna be used or not
Not
used.
used.
They don't use any of your.
Right, but
They
just
have
what's
their
on
own,
there.
yeah, they have their own sound system.
Right.
The only thing we do is set up their chairs and clean up after they're done. That's all we do.
The only thing that has ever had an impact, like with the church, I can't speak for Metal Alert, but like for us. Registration, for example, like we can't set up on Friday because the church uses the gym on Sunday.
Mm.
And so we have to set up Monday morning right before registration. So that's the only
Yeah.
impact we've ever had, because otherwise they're literally there only on Sunday.
But I could always
So it's
get,
that one
I could
thing.
always get staff members to set up right after the church. I always have people there. That wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah,
Take care of
just
that
like all the
process.
stuff that we set out though.
So I think, Kai and Ernesto, if we could take a look at the contractual package that
Mhm.
currently exists. Of course, go through legal counsel for
Mhm.
updates and just vetting of parameters.
Mhm.
And then have the site leaders, the principals, take a look at, in terms of what needs to be added on for liability, with equipment and so forth, so on that's been added since 6 years ago. So
I would suggest that we get our insurance company's recommendation for what these organizations need to carry as insurance based on. The operational description of what they're gonna be doing at our
Mhm.
campus, number of people. What the activities are, like they'll dictate what insurance they
Sure.
require us to
the
have.
25 to 50, 50
Yeah.
to 100, yeah.
Yeah, and then just double whatever they say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Better safe than sorry.
A couple
Very
ideas, I'm
Mhm.
throwing it out, you
Yeah.
guys can shoot me down if you guys don't like it. Maybe what you can do is go into negotiation with the church and see what audio systems that they need. Maybe you can do a split or something where they donate the audio equipment, they can use the facilities for a certain amount of time. And then we get to keep those audio equipment, visual equipment inside the multi-purpose room.
We just upgraded 2 years ago.
Oh, they did
Yeah,
that already?
But they don't use it. They only use it for in-house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's because they have a totally different setup. They don't do it on top of the stage. They do it on the side,
Oh, got it.
facing the cafeteria tables.
Okay. Fine.
But in theory, that's a great idea,
Mhm.
right? If people do want to use our
Yeah.
facilities and something like
should
that,
help us out
negotiating
with-
some sort of
Mhm.
donation versus actual cash paid.
Or,
Might,
or looking at joint use agreements for like facilities that we have.
the fields.
Mhm.
That
That's a great idea.
it's already started to be proposed because people love our new high desert field.
Mhm.
So the question has been posed to me already of, can we use high deserts field for,
Mhm.
you know, desert winds or whatever it is?
Oh, we do.
You don't think you're
So-
have lights there? Would that be during the day?
We're working.
Mhm.
Our booster club has a light up the field campaign. They're working on it. But,
See,
but
leave-
even
leave
that,
Michelle.
even that, like just joint use agreements,
Yeah.
we're getting 2 new pickleball courts installed down on the basketball courts. That could be something community wise. Do you know what I mean? Like that might be something community
Mhm.
might want to end up renting the facility to have a pickleball tournament or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
That'd be sweet.
I think, Mr. Salcedo has a
Like.
quote for, at least for Vasquez for lights on all the fields.
Okay,
All right, let's move on to.
well, we could review it. I haven't seen it
But it's in the
in the
works.
works.
She's gonna be told to bring it to
Got it.
Our next
Good, very
item,
good.
would be the future agenda items. We have our list that we have from the previous meeting and, I think it'll be, if everybody agrees, we wanted to see the current maintenance needs, like all the stuff that kind of had to be happen and what the time period in which it needed to happen, and then seeing whether it's been budgeted for to happen or not, like how much of this stuff is unbudgeted. And this is to keep the lights on stuff,
Mhm.
like this stuff
Mhm.
has to be done,
Mhm.
and then maybe there's a tier of, like, has to happen. Like major cost implications if we don't address these things. And then seeing those things in like a 6-month, 12-month, 18-month, 30, 20, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year kind of outlook.
Okay.
Like what are the cost structure stuff that's coming at us, that sort of thing. It's really to keep the lights on stuff. We saw some stuff and we're gonna walk through that, probably was coming, coming at us. So,
Okay.
what are those items and then are they budgeted?
Mhm.
I'll look into that.
And I know Kai and Ernesto have been working on that as
Yeah.
well, so they'll be ready.
I think that's the only thing we wanted to try to touch on for the next meeting. For an outlook for the meeting beyond that. We had some pretty in-depth detail we wanted to see around current enrollment and forecasted enrollment. How that was gonna move over the next few years.
Mhm.
If there was a glut of students somewhere that was, where it was gonna end up.
Mhm.
We have a current pressure today. Is that pressure planned to move, or is it where it's gonna be? It's gonna remain where that is, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
That makes sense?
It does, it does. I think it was maybe 2 years ago, we had a formal demographics company, Davis Demographics, come out and actually present, just based on census data and what was actually in place at that point in time in terms of our projected enrollment. I mean, you can't bank on it 100% because they were anticipating declining enrollment, these past 3 years. That didn't happen. However, but just taking a look at some of the other trends, we could kind of help to decipher, what the future enrollments might look like.
Yeah, I kind of thinking too, like if you were to look through, K through 12, right? Is there like a glut in 5th grade,
Like
say, a bubble group in 5th grade that's moving through our system that, that pressure is gonna relieve at some point where it's currently feeling it
We
today?
could assess from our principals and taking a look
our
at the
bubble group
size.
graduated.
Yeah.
They were seniors last year. There was 120
Okay,
when they came through high desert
Mhm.
and every others was like 80, 90s.
okay.
And that one class had 120.
But maybe I can send out to the group just some data points I think that would be relevant.
Sure.
To kind of look at that. I mean, so the goal, let's, instead of just talking about the data, but like, what is the goal, right? So the goal would be to, obviously understand where we have current capacity, where it's at right now from a surplus and deficiency. And then, be able to see if we have an issue coming at us in a certain grade level, maybe like I said, there's a bubble group earlier you know, further upstream. That we're seeing today and whether or not we need to plan.
It seems like,
Yeah,
isn't there something
floor
down in
space.
elementary?
The elementary level, I would say at the younger grades.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we did the walkthrough,
Yeah,
the most impacted was Meadowlark.
metal work, yeah.
And there were some space at the high school and middle
High
school.
desert. But yeah, Meadowlark is the most impacted.
Is that, do we think that's gonna stay that way? That's really the question. Is it gonna stay that way? Is that a moment in time right now, or is that gonna stay that way?
That's been the trend for the last, I want to say 2 years at the minimum, maybe 3
Okay.
for Meadowlark. So I would say, I would, short term, next 2-3 years, that would be the trend.
Coming in.
Coming your way.
I like it. Bring 'em on.
Well, she's got space though, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's the real.
Not a lot, but I mean, compared to the other
Yeah,
two.
Compared
sites,
to everywhere else, yeah,
Yeah.
you've got boatloads of space.
Not a
Well,
little,
those-
yes.
Don't get her started about office space.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. We don't have office space. Not,
Library.
we have student space.
Student space, just to clarify for no.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, believe that brings us to a close unless somebody else has something they'd like to see addressed on a future agenda item. We have our list that we've been working off of that we started initially, so. Are there any other items we want to add? So the next things, again, just to remind everybody, we just presented the budget overview. Next meeting is to assess current maintenance needs, all the keep the lights on activity. That'll be our next meeting.
Mhm.
After that, let's see, so the meeting after that is to assess opportunities for space optimization. So present some ideas for how we can utilize current and existing space in a better way. Just to optimize what we currently have.
Yeah.
Where are the opportunities at? Next, assess current enrollment by grade and campus, define current capacity, surplus deficiency, have it in budget and plan to meet future needs. Assess opportunities, let's see where we need to add space to be able to maintain our current growth structure. And then surveying staff and community for capital project desires. Any other things we want to think about or add to the list of things we're going to tackle?
Yeah.
No. Then meeting adjourned at 4:50.